Shalom, brothers and sisters. Once again, we are the Hebrew Israelites. We come week in, week out to prophesy the downfall of America. Okay? To prophesy the downfall of America, which is Babylon the Great in the Bible, to let you know, according to the scriptures and the prophecies, that America is going to be destroyed for its crimes, for its wickedness. Okay? And we also come out to deliver this spiritual message to you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to let you see that you are the children of Israel. Better yet, known as the lost tribes of Israel. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you are God's chosen people. Okay? And today, we're going to go over the lesson. Today's topic concerning the lesson would be, we're going to pick apart Romans the 11th chapter. So we're going to get in Romans the 11th chapter and pick apart that. Before we start up, we want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders. We also want to give great respect, salutations to the Achaim, the brothers that's teaching this truth and sincerity, edifying the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And last but not least, we want to give all praises, glorification, and honor due to Yahweh, by Hashem, Hamashiach Yahushai, who the world calls God and Jesus Christ. Okay? So now we're going to start off in the King James Holy Bible with Psalms 33 and 12. That's Psalms 33 and 12. Okay? Psalm 33 and 12 reads, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, and the people whom he hath chosen for his own inheritance. Read it again. This is Psalms 33 verse 12. It says, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. Now, it's a particular nation of people that it says in Psalm 33 and 12 that God, the Most High, is the Lord of these nations of people. That means he's the God of these nations of people. Blessed is that nation. Who is that nation? The nation is known as the nation of Israel. Okay? The nation of Israel. The Most High created 18 nations in the earth. And out of all those nationality of people, he chose Israel as his chosen people. Okay? The descendants of Jacob became the Israelites. Who are the descendants of Jacob today? Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. The so-called black man, so-called Hispanic man, and the Native American man are the descendants of Jacob. Alright? Better yet known as Israelites. Alright? So when we go back over Psalm 33 and 12, it says, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. Okay? So you're going to find out when you read the Bible, you're going to find out that God is not the God of all nations. He's only the God of the nation of Israel. Israel became his chosen people. He made a covenant with the Israelites from the Old Testament throughout the New Testament. Primarily the whole entire Bible was written for Israel, okay? So blessed is that nation, according to Psalm 33 and 12, whose God is the Lord and the people whom he hath chosen. So everyone is not chosen people. Only blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. This is Psalm 33 and 12. Read it yourself. Everyone is not chosen people, okay? All the nationality of people, God is not the God of. He's only looking for a special people, and that's you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, which are the Israelites, which are the descendants of Jacob. And yes, all the Israelites with different shades of brown. Okay? So if you're not an Israelite, you're not chosen. Primarily to say if you're not black, Hispanic, or Native American descent, you're not a chosen person, man, okay? You are a heathen and a Gentile in the eyes of the Most High. So it's a privilege and an honor to be an Israelite. Because what we're about to go in is Romans the 11th chapter to show you that it's not talking about all nationality of people that's on the outside of Jacob's bloodline. It's not talking about you people. All right? We're going to break it down so you can get better understanding. Let's go. We're going to give you a specific verse in the Bible to show you that God is the only God. God is the Most High. Okay, and He's the only God of Israel. He's the God of Israel only, so to speak. Not the white man, not the Chinese man, Japanese, East Indians, not the Arabs, not the Africans, but only you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, man. How do we know that? When we go over Joel 2 and 27, we're going to go over Romans the 11th chapter. So let's go to Joel 2 and 27 to see to see what nation that God is, the nation that God is over, okay? We looked over 33 and 12 of Psalms. Now we're going to Joel 2 and 27. This is the book of Joel 2 and 27. It reads, "And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God and none else." So God is the God of Israel, and He's not the God of any other nation on the earth. That's what most people fail to realize. Joel 2 and 27, let's read it over again. "And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel." He said that He's in the midst of Israel. Who are the Israelites? The descendants of Jacob. You blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans that don't even know you Israelites today. That been told that you so-called niggers or Negroes are American blacks or African Americans. That been told that you are Latinos and Hispanics. That been told that you are natives, okay? But your nationality goes back to Israel, man. That's your true biblical name. You so-called Hispanics, you so-called blacks and Native Americans are Israelites. Israel. Okay? Joel 2 and 27 says that you shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and I am the Lord your God and none else, and my people shall never be ashamed. Because you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans don't have to be ashamed on saying on proclaiming who you are according to these scriptures, man. Because it's every privilege to be an Israelite, okay? Now we're going to go in Romans the 11th chapter to deal with that, because a lot of these other nations of people that are not black or of Hispanic descent or Native American descent, they want to claim that they got rights as well to become a child of God, or they got as much as rights as the Israelites to be grafted in. That's why we're going in Romans the 11th chapter, and we're going to pick apart this, and we're going to show you the truth, man, okay? So Romans the 11th chapter. All praises and glorification to Yahweh Ba'ashim Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, man. This is Romans the 11th chapter. Romans 11 chapter verse 1. I say then, has God cast away His people? Paul is asking a question here. Are the Israelites been done away with? Are the Israelites gone off the planet? Because most of these cathedrals, okay, these Christian societies, these churches, want to claim that everyone has the entitlement to be an Israelite. But Romans 11 and 1 said, has God cast away His people? That means if you're claiming that everyone is spiritual Israel, that means that God people are done away with. But is God people done away with? Because all you nationality of people are claiming that you're spiritual Israelites. Spiritual Israelites, that's not in the Bible, man. There's no such thing as a spiritual Israelite. That's not in the scriptures. Okay? And before we go any further with Romans 11 verse 1, we need to go over, is there such thing as a spiritual Israelite? Because it's not. Let's go to Romans the 9th chapter. We'll go back to Romans 11 verse 1 to prove there's no such thing as a spiritual Israelite. Romans the 9th chapter and verse 1. This is Paul speaking. I say the truth in Christ. Yahweh Shai, I lie not. My conscience also bearing me witness in the Holy Ghost. Romans 9 verse 2. That I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart, Romans 9 verse 3. For I could wish that myself were accursed from Christ for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh. Okay? So Paul is saying that basically he wished he could take on the sufferings of Christ for his brother's sake. It said his brothers. Romans 9 verse 3 said that his brethren and his kinsmen. That means that Paul was an Israelite too. Okay? Paul was an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin. We would go over that. So Romans 9 verse 3 says that this is concerning his brethren and his kinsmen according to the flesh. What does that mean? According to bloodline. According to bloodline. That's what it means when he said the flesh. He said according to the flesh, not the spirit, man. So there's no such thing as a spiritual Israelite. In order to be an Israelite, you have to be a descendant straight from the bloodline of Jacob, man. And everybody not descendants of Jacob. Because it was more than Jacob that was the progenitor that started nationality of people. Okay? Romans 9 verse 4. Who are Israelites to whom pertaineth the adoption, in the glory, in the covenants, in the giving of the law, in the service of God, and the promises. So Romans 9 verse 4, Paul says that his kinsmen and his brethren are Israelites. Who are you Israelites today? You so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Okay? Who are Israelites who pertain to the adoption? What is the adoption? The death of Christ. Yahweh's death when he died on Calvary. Okay? That's the adoption. Okay? The glory. What is the glory? The kingdom of heaven. Because it was promised to the Israelites and only the Israelites. What is the covenants? The covenants are the promises. Okay? He made a covenant with Israel. Alright? It says the covenants. The covenants from basically Genesis to Exodus. And the giving of the law from Exodus to Deuteronomy. The giving of the law. The law was given to Israel and only Israel. In the service of God, which were the high priests, which were the Levites, which were Israelites. You so-called Levites, or you modern day Haitians are the Levites today. And the promises. So Romans 9, beginning with verse 1, stopping on verse 4, tells you that all the promises are to the Israelites. Okay? And it's according to the flesh, not the spirit. Let's continue to read Romans 9 verse 5. Who are the fathers? Who are our fathers? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are the fathers of you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Who are the fathers and of whom as concerning the flesh? It says concerning the flesh, not the spirit, concerning bloodline, concerning that appointed line, that certain people that the Most High is dealing with, the Israelites, okay? Romans 9, verse 5. It says concerning the flesh, Christ came. So who did Christ come for? The Israelites, the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Concerning the flesh, concerning the bloodline, not the spirit. Because if it was of the spirit and everybody can be an Israelite, then we won't have no slaves in the kingdom of heaven, man. Okay? And there should be more than 12 gates on the side of the kingdom of heaven. Okay? So everybody's not an Israelite. Whether you chose to believe it or not. It's what God says. Okay? It says, so as concerning the flesh, Romans 9 verse 5, concerning the flesh, Christ came, who is over all. God bless forever and amen. Now we got to go back to Romans the 11th chapter verse 1. Romans the 11th chapter verse 1, I say then, as God cast away his people, as God cast away his people, it says, God forbid, for I also am an Israelite. Paul was saying that God has not cast away his people, man. And this is one of the most misunderstood things today that we battle with. Because these cathedrals, these Christian societies, these communities, they still want to assert, and they still want to claim that the Israelites are done away with, and that they are no longer around today, that they fell off the planet, that they no longer in existence, that they became extinct. But you're gonna find out you so-called Israel, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are God people. That's why he asked the question, God people are not cast away. Romans 11 verse 1 said, God forbid. Now we're gonna give you a precept concerning that, all right? We're gonna give you a precept concerning that. On God, people being cast away because people like the Israelites are not on the planet anymore. Let's see. Okay. Because if you was claiming that you're a spiritual Israelite, if you're a spiritual Israelite, you can't even identify what tribe you come out of, man. You couldn't even identify what tribe you come out of if you're claiming that you're a spiritual Israelite. It doesn't make any sense. Let's take a look at Jeremiah, the 31st chapter, beginning with the 35th verse. That's Jeremiah 31 and 35. Let's look at that. Jeremiah 31 and 35. And we'll go back to Romans the 11th chapter, verse 1. But right now, let's look at Jeremiah 31 and 35. The book of Jeremiah, the 31st verse, the 31st chapter, the 31st chapter, and the 35th verse. Jeremiah 31 and 35. And it reads, it says, thus said the Lord, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divides the sea when the waves thereof roar. The Lord Yahweh of hosts is his name. Now listen up, brothers and sisters. We're going to see if the Israelites fell off the planet or is the Israelites done away with. Jeremiah the 31st chapter, the 36th verse. If those ordinances depart from me, what ordinances is the Most High talking about? He's talking about the sun by day and the moon by night and the stars, man. Because he created the sun, the stars, and the moon and the firmament. He says, if you ever see the sun and the moon and the stars depart, if you ever was to wake up and not see the sun and the moons and the stars. This is Jeremiah 31 verse 36. If those ordinances depart from me, said the Lord Jehovah, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me and forever. So long as you see the sun, the moon, and the stars, the children of Israel is still in existence. And I can look up today and I can see the sun shining upon me. And I can look up by night and see the moon shining upon the earth during the twilight, and also the stars. So as long as you see the sun, the moon, and the stars, the children of Israel is still in existence. So what they're talking about, man? When they say the children of Israel is no longer in existence, then you shouldn't see the sun, moon, or stars. Jeremiah the 31st chapter and the 36th verse. We'll stop on the 37th verse. If those ordinances depart from me, said the Lord, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. Verse 37 out of Jeremiah 31st chapter. Thus said the Lord, in heaven above can be measured, and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath. I will also cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done, said the Lord. So he also said, if heaven can be measured, you cannot measure the heavens, man. Okay? And he also said that if the foundation of the earth can be searched out beneath. Nobody know how big this earth is, man. And everybody hasn't took a complete travel around the whole entire earth. There's places in the earth that people can't get. So the Israelites are still in existence. Let's go back to Romans, the 11th chapter. Verse 1. I say, have God cast away his people? God forbid, for I am also an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. So Paul says he's from the tribe of Benjamin. The Israelites are not done away with. Apostle Paul that wrote 75% of the New Testament was from the tribe of Benjamin, the so-called modern-day Jamaicans of the West Indies. That's the tribe Paul was from, Benjamin, which is the youngest of the children of Israel. Benjamin was the youngest son out of all the 12 sons of Jacob, and Paul came from the seed of Benjamin. So Paul would be a modern-day Jamaican. So Paul was telling you in the scriptures that he's from the tribe of Benjamin, that he's an Israelite, and that the Israelites are not done away with. Romans 11 verse 2. God has not cast away his people, which he foreknew. He hasn't cast away his people. So if God didn't cast away his people, what happened to the children of Israel? They were scattered out because of disobedience. Okay? The children of Israel were scattered out in various lands. He uprooted them out of the land of Israel for disobedience. You got Israelites in North America, Central America, South America. You got Israelites in the Eastern Hemisphere. You got Israelites in the Western Hemisphere. Even the Caribbean islands, and you got a remnant of Israelites in the South Pacific Sea. So the children of Israel were dispersed in various regions upon the earth, but they were never done away with, man. How do we know that? Let's go into the scriptures. Let's prove that. This is Deuteronomy 28:37. Because God hasn't cast away his people. So where are they? Let's see. Deuteronomy 28:37. And thou shalt become an astonishment. This is the curses that fell on you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. This is the curses in Deuteronomy 28 that came upon the children of Israel for disobedience, for the violation of God's laws. Deuteronomy 28:37. Let's see, because it said God hasn't cast away his people. So where are they? Deuteronomy 28:37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb and a byword among all nations, whether the Lord shall lead thee. So where we was led? Among all nations. How we was led among all nations? Captivity. Because the children of Israel went in several captivities throughout the Bible. You had the Egyptian captivity that lasted 430 years, 721 BC. The Assyrian, 721 BC. The Assyrian captivity, 586 BC. The Babylonian captivity, the Persian Mede captivity, 333 BC. The Greek captivity, the Roman captivity. You had the Africans, the Arabs, the Europeans. Israel always been in captivity, man. And that's how we were scattered in different regions for captivity. You had other nations of people that took Israelites to several different locations as slaves for the violation of God's laws. He allowed other nations to come in and take Israel to different locations. And that's why it says in Deuteronomy 28:37 that we will become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword, that in the last days we wouldn't be called by the name of Israel because we would be called the so-called Jews, okay? Let's say the so-called Negroes, they love to call us niggers and Negroes and African Americans, but they don't call us the Jews. Why? Because we left the biblical term and we picked up a byword, a proverb. Same thing got the Hispanics. They don't call them Israelites. They don't call the Mexicans Israelites. They call them Mexicans and Latinos because we took upon a proverb and a byword. And guess what? We was led among all nations. Deuteronomy 28:37. Another one is Deuteronomy 4:27. Let's look at Deuteronomy 4:27. Deuteronomy 4:27. It reads, and the Lord shall scatter you among all the nations, and ye shall be left a few in number among the heathen, whither the Lord shall lead you. So Deuteronomy 4:27 says that the Lord Jehovah scattered us among the nations. So we're not done away with. We haven't fell off the planet. We just been scattered among different nations of people. Who those nations of people that we've been scattered among? Deuteronomy 4:27 says that we shall be scattered among the nations, and ye shall be left few and number among the heathen. So we were scattered among the heathen. Who are the heathens? People that are not Israelites. People that are not descendants of Jacob. Heathens are the Edomites, okay? Let me show you. The heathens are the Edomites, which are the so-called white man, white woman today, okay? The Elamites, which are the East Indians. The S.F.I.A, which are the Assyrians. The Israelites, which are the Arabs. The Moabites, which are the Chinese. The Ammonites, which are the Japanese. The Cushites, which are the Ethiopians. The Mizraimites, which are the Egyptians. The Puttites, which are the North Africans. The Canaanites, which are the South Africans. And so forth, going on down, which goes back to Edom, man. We were scattered among those people, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. That's why when you read in the Bible, every time you read in scripture or verse, it always talks about Israel in captivity. We were scattered among the people, but we never ceased. We never fell off the planet, man, okay? This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 2, verse 14. Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled? This is a question that Jeremiah asked the Most High. And Jeremiah was an Israelite, and he was a black man. Okay? So Jeremiah asked the Most High, pursuing Jeremiah 2, verse 14, it says, is Israel a servant? Is all Israel is going to do is serve? This is what you created the nation of Israel to do, to be servants of other nations of people? Because you Israelites been serving from day one, and you still serving today. Who are you serving? You're serving your oppressors. You're serving the enemy. You're serving the so-called white man and his power structure, man. The Edomites that the Bible speaks of. That's why Jeremiah said, is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? You blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you always been in captivity. Every time you turn around, God allowed another nation to bring you as a slave for disobedience. Who brought you as slaves to America? Who brought you as slaves to build up America? Who brought you as slaves to cultivate the land? Who brought you as slaves to build a U.S. Capitol, to build a White House? Who did that? You blacks did. Because you became a servant. You became a slave to your oppressors. That's why Jeremiah told you in 2 and 14, is Israel a servant? Is the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, all we're going to do is serve? Is he a homeborn slave? This Jeremiah 2 and 14. It say, is he a homeborn slave? You Israelites been in several captivities. The Egyptians had you. The Assyrians had you. The Babylonians had you. The Persians had you. The Greeks had you. The Romans had you. And this is the revived Roman Empire. And you're a slave to this day. Under the hands of the so-called white man, the white power, the white supremacy. So you haven't been cast away. You haven't fell off the planet. It's just you've been a slave and you've been too damn busy in other nations, serving other nationality of people, serving the heathen. But you don't know you're Israelite because the Bible tells you in the last days you'll discontinue from your heritage, not knowing who you are. If you look at Jeremiah 17 verse 4, okay? Jeremiah 17 verse 4, man. And thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thy heritage that I gave thee. You blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans will know who you are in the last days. You too busy thinking you African, or you Negro, or you Black American, when you don't have no idea that you are the Jews. You Hispanics, you Latinos, thinking that you are somebody else, when you don't have no idea that you're the Israelites, man. That's called discontinuing from your heritage because your forefathers are not around to tell you who you are today. You discontinue from your heritage that the Most High gave you, man. And now you living as an American. Now you want to be everybody else but who the nation of people you were called to be. Let's go back to Romans, man. Romans the 11th chapter. Let's kind of skip down for the sake of time. We're going to have to pick this apart for the sake of time. Let's skip around in Romans the 11th chapter to get the understanding and break that down. Okay? Romans the 11th chapter. We went over Romans 11, verses 1 and 2. God has not cast away his people. Let's skip down a little bit. Romans 11 verse 7. What then? Israel have not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election have obtained it, and the rest were blinded. So who is this talking about? When it says out of Romans the 11th chapter verse 7, Israel have not attained that which he seeketh for, but the election have obtained it, and the rest were blinded. Who was the rest of Israel that was blinded? The Jews were blinded. Why? Because they didn't believe in Yahushua. They didn't believe he was the Son of God. They didn't believe he healed the sick, raised the dead, and did many miracles. And last but not least, they set him up to be crucified. Who did that? The Pharisees, the scribes, the Sadducees, which are the leaders of the Jews. They was given the position to be leaders of the Jews. The Pharisees and the Sadducees were. They was given that leadership position, but they denied Yahushua, who the world called Jesus Christ, and rejected the Son of God. And that's the rest. That's the rest. Basically, according to Romans 11 verse 7, that was the same people that were blinded, man. Okay? Romans 11 verse 8, according as it's written, God hath given them the spirit of slumber, eyes that they should not see, ears that they should not hear, even to this day. Who was given the spirit of slumber? That they couldn't see, that they couldn't hear to this day. The Pharisees and the scribes. The Pharisees is the Sadducees. The scribes, the leaders of the Jews. Primarily, not all the Jews, the leaders of the Jews that didn't believe on Yahushua. Okay? They was given the spirit of slumber. They was given that their eyes should not see and their ears should not hear to this day. Okay? Verse 9 out of Romans 11 chapter. And David said, let their table be made a snare and a trap, and a stumbling block, and a recompense unto them. So David prayed that 2/3 of Israel would not come into the knowledge and the truth. David prayed a prayer in the 69th chapter of Psalms that wicked Israelites would not receive the truth nor come into the glory of God, man. And that prayer fell on them Pharisees and them scribes and them Sadducees, man. Verse 10 out of Romans the 11th chapter. Let their eyes be darkened that they may not see, and bow down their back always. So David said, let their eyes be darkened. Whose eyes were darkened? The Pharisees and the Sadducees, because they rejected Yahushua. They didn't believe he was the Son of the Most High. Okay? Romans 11:11. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? Who stumbled? The Jews did. Not all the Jews, but most of the Jews did. Because the Christian society, the cathedrals say that all the Jews rejected Jesus Christ, who we call Yahushua. They say that all the Jews rejected Christ. All the Jews did not reject Christ. I will show you this, and we'll get back into that, because I just want to show you that all the Jews didn't reject Christ. Then we'll get back in Romans 11:11. Let's go to St. John. Okay? 8:31. St. John 8:31. Okay? It says, then Jesus, Yahushua, to those Jews which believed on him. See, it was certain Jews that believed in the Son of God. They believed that he was. All the Jews did not reject Jesus Christ, who we call Yahushua. Even though John chapter 1, verse 11 says he came to his own, and his own received him not all of the Jews. Because when you read in John chapter 1, verse 12, it said, but as many as received him, he gave them power to become the sons of God. So it was many Jews received Jesus Christ, who we call Yahushua. Even when you look at, like we just went over, St. John 8:31. St. John 8:31 tells you it was Jews that believed on his name. But who was the one that rejected Yahushua? Who was the one that didn't believe he was the Son of God? The the scribes, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees, which was the leaders, which are you modern day pastors today, man. Let's go back to Romans, the 11th chapter. Romans, the 11th chapter. In the 11th verse. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? God forbid, but rather through their fall, salvation is coming to the Gentiles to provoke them to jealousy. So salvation came to the Gentiles. But who are the Gentiles? The Gentiles are the Israelites. Okay? It's two different types of Gentiles in the Bible. Salvation came to the northern kingdom of Israel because the northern kingdom of Israel was cast out of God's sight. Okay? You can look at my video on S.F.I.A, and the video is titled the Israelites grafted in, I want to say. I think that's the title of the video is the Israelites grafted in or something like that. S.F.I.A, you'll find it. So it says, Romans 11:11, salvation coming to the Gentiles. Those were Israelites that took upon Gentile state of mind. Okay? You have the nation of Israel, which are the 12 tribes. These same 12 tribes, they went off. Okay? The same 12 tribes, they went off. And what did they do? They went off and they took upon the customs of the original Gentiles. It's two different types of Gentiles. From 2 to 18. Gentiles that are not from the seed of Jacob, which are primarily so-called Europeans, Japanese, Chinese, Africans, East Indians, and Arabs, and so forth. Anybody that's not black, Hispanic, or Native American descent are known as Gentiles, which is primarily from 2 to 18. So what happened was, you had the nation of Israel that after captivity, they were dispersed in these lands of the Gentiles, and they took upon their customs, making themselves in a Gentile state of mind. You see? That's what it's talking about. Okay? And we'll show you. That's what it's talking about. Let's go to 1 Corinthians. And we'll come back to Romans 11:11. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. Now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, Paul is talking to his brethren, the Israelites, okay? So that's what Paul said. Now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would not have you ignorant. Because if you know the scriptures, you're not going to be ignorant. This is 1 Corinthians 12 and 1. If you know who are the Gentiles, you're not going to be ignorant, man. Salah. 1 Corinthians 12 verse 2. Ye know that ye were Gentiles, carried away into these dumb idols, even as ye were led. So Paul tells his brethren. Notice it said his brethren in verse 1 out of 1 Corinthians 12 and 1. It said his brethren, his same brethren. Who are the brethren of Paul? Okay, the Israelites. 1 Corinthians 12 and 2. Ye know that ye were Gentiles. Okay, so if you're a Gentile by default, Gentile, Japhetic people, okay? Gentiles are Hamitic people, okay? So if you're a Gentile by default, if you were born a Gentile, this wouldn't make sense according to 1 Corinthians 12 verse 2. It say, know that ye were Gentiles. If you were born a Gentile, that wouldn't make sense when he said, know that ye were Gentiles. That don't make sense if you are a Gentile from birth. So who was he talking about? He was talking about Israelites, the 12 tribes of Israel, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, okay, in the West Indies or the Caribbeans. He was saying, know that you were Gentiles, because when you was a slave in the original Gentile areas and in their lands, you took upon their customs, you worshiped their gods, you did everything according to the people that you was taking on the slaves on, that you was taking slaves on. You did their philosophies and their customs, like you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are doing the philosophies and the customs of the Americans. And now the other regions you scattered out. Okay? So 1 Corinthians 12 verse 2 said, know that ye were Gentiles, carried away into these dumb idols, even as you were led. So it was Israelites that was worshiping gods of other nations, making themselves in the Gentile state of mind. But when they received the truth and the knowledge of the truth, and they returned to the laws of God and started walking in their calling and stepping up to the plate, and they found out who they really were, they left that Gentile state of mind. Those are known as proselytes that returned back to the laws of Moses. Okay? So now when you go to, let's go back to Romans 11:11. Let's get some understanding. I say to them, have they stumbled that they should fall? God forbid, but rather through their fall, salvation is coming to the Gentiles to provoke them to jealousy. So he gave salvation to the northern kingdom of Israel to provoke the southern kingdom of Israel to jealousy. That's what it's all about. Salvation coming to the northern kingdom of Israel, because when you read in 1 Kings, the 11th chapter, it speaks of the nation of Israel being sliced up, okay? The nation of Israel was divided into two kingdoms. You had the southern kingdom, which is known as the Jews, and you had the northern kingdom, which was known as Israel. You can read about that in Jeremiah the 3rd chapter. Just look at Jeremiah 3 and 8. Matter of fact, let's get that. Jeremiah 3 and 8. Jeremiah 3 and 8. And I saw with for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel, that's the northern kingdom, backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot also. So in Jeremiah 3 and 8, the Most High compares the nation of Israel when they were sliced and divided into two kingdoms. He used the personification. He was telling the whole nation of Israel that became divided. He used the personification as them being sisters. In Jeremiah chapter 3 verse 8, he says that backsliding Israel committed adultery, man. That was the northern kingdom, and also the southern kingdom did the same thing. But the northern kingdom was much worse than the southern kingdom. How do we know that? So you can see that Jeremiah 3 and 8 says Israel, the northern kingdom, committed adultery. He did what? He put her away, man. But at a later time, the same nation of people, which are the northern kingdom of Israel, he would come and redeem through his son. He put her away. Okay? Look at Jeremiah 3 verse 11. And the Lord said unto me, the backsliding Israel had justified herself more treacherous than Judah. So the northern kingdom was much more worse than the southern kingdom. And that's why he casted them off. These are the same people in the New Testament that's known as Gentiles. The same people that was redeemed, that was adopted by the death of Yahushua. That's why we was going over Romans 9 chapter when it says, the Israelites, the brother and the kinsmen, according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertaining the adoption, they was adopted back in. The northern kingdom that was casted off, they was adopted back in the fold, so to speak. They was grafted in, man. The grafting in Romans 11 chapter is speaking about the northern kingdom of Israel being grafted back in among the Jews to make the whole nation of Israel again, man. That's what it's all about. Okay? Let's look at Ezekiel 37 chapter. Ezekiel 37 chapter will alleviate a lot of things if you're struggling with Romans the 11th chapter. Because Ezekiel spoke about the grafting too. Ezekiel 37. Okay, let's look at that. See how much time we got here. Ezekiel 37 chapter, Salah. Ezekiel 37 chapter. We're going to begin with verse 15. Ezekiel 37:15. The word of the Lord Jehovah came again to me, saying, this is Ezekiel talking. Ezekiel 37:16. Moreover, the son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it for Judah and for the children of Israel and his companions. That's the southern kingdom, okay? Then take another stick and write upon it for Joseph and the stick of Ephraim. That's the northern kingdom. So you have the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. Ezekiel 37, verse 16. And for all the house of Israel and his companions. So Judah being the southern kingdom, Ephraim being the northern kingdom, makes up the whole house of Israel. Ezekiel 37, verse 17. And join them one to another until one stick, that they shall become one in thy hand. That's what he told Ezekiel. He said that the two kingdoms of Israel that were split into two separate kingdoms, when Solomon committed sin, he caused the whole nation of Israel to be divided into two separate kingdoms, okay? He told Ezekiel for the southern kingdom, which are the Jews, to take one stick, and for the northern kingdom that the Most High cast off, to take another stick. So one stick represented the southern kingdom, one stick represented the northern kingdom. He said, put the sticks together. To do what? To create the whole nation of Israel, man. Because that's what the Bible is about. That's what the whole entire Bible is about. Getting the nation of Israel, getting those two kingdoms, which are the Jews and the Israelites, getting you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, getting you all back to one nation, man. All right? So he said, take the stick and join them to one another. Ezekiel 37:17. Join them to one another, that they shall become one stick and not hand. That's the separate kingdoms of Israel becoming a nation of kin. All right? Let's look at Amos. We're going to show you this in Amos. Amos 9 and 11. Let's get it. Okay? Amos 9, verse 11. In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. And I will raise up its ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old. This is Amos, the 9th chapter, the 11th verse. So it says, in that day, I will raise up the tabernacles of David. What is the tabernacles of David? The nation of Israel. You blacks, you Hispanics, you Native Americans, you are the chosen people. You are the Israelites. He says, I'm going to rise you up. I'm going to rise the nation of Israel up as one nation again. All right? I will rise up the tabernacles of David that's fallen. Because the tabernacles of David, they fell down. When did they fall down? Saul was the first king over the whole entire nation of Israel. After Saul reigned, who came in next place? David did. David reigned over the 12 tribes. Then David passed the kingship to his son Solomon. Okay? Solomon went off and Solomon married 1,000 wives. Okay? And they led his heart away from God. And he caused the nation of Israel to be separate into two kingdoms. So if you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans want to go off and keep customs of the so-called white man, the white woman, the Chinese man, the Japanese man, the African man, the East Indians, and so forth, if you want to continue to keep their customs and their philosophies, you already done became in a Gentile state of mind. You're a Gentile, man. Okay? That's what the Israelites were doing in the New Testament. Romans the 11th chapter, verse 12. Now, if the fall of them be the riches of the world, when you look at Isaiah 45:17, it tells you that Israel is the world. Okay? You have third world countries. You have the sports world, the fish world, the sea world. Okay, the world of the Greeks, the world of the Chinese. It's more than one definition to the word world. When you look at the word world in the dictionary, it says a society of people with common interests and goals. Okay? So the world is referring to Israel. How do we know that? Isaiah 45:17 speaks of Israel being the world, that they shall be nor confounded world without end. Okay? Isaiah 45:17 speaks of Israel being the world. Okay? So Romans 11 verse 12 says, if the fall of them be the riches of the world. The fall of who? The fall of the Jews. But not all the Jews. We went over that. The fall of the leaders, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They fell. So if the fall of them, which are the Jews, be the riches of the world, which are the northern kingdom of Israel, which were not Jews, they were the northern kingdom that was Israelites, because just remember now, all Israelites are not Jews. You had the southern kingdom, which was known as Judah. Jew is short for Judah. Benjamin, Judah, and Levi was the southern kingdom. They were the Jews. All the other 9 tribes of Israel were not known as Jews. They was known as the northern kingdom of Israel. Okay? So at the fall of the Jews, southern kingdom, be the riches of the northern kingdom, and the diminishing of them, the riches of the Gentiles, how much more fullness? How much more if the Jews repent, they can come back in too? So what are the riches? When you look at Romans the 11th chapter verse 33, it says, "O depth of the riches, both the wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable are his judgments and his ways past finding out." So what are the riches? Because we read Romans 11 verse 12, it says the riches. The riches is the wisdom and the knowledge that was given to the northern kingdom of Israel. Wisdom and knowledge refers to the laws. Okay? Because you had the southern kingdom of Israel that didn't take the Son of God to be who he really was. And they rejected the knowledge and the wisdom. So what happened? The riches, which is the knowledge and the wisdom, went to the northern kingdom of Israel, and they accepted the salvation. They accept the salvation, man, okay? That's making the southern kingdom jealous, so they can appreciate the salvation that was given to them, okay? That's what this is all about, man. So I hope you brothers and sisters were edified concerning this lesson. S.F.I.A, Solid Foundation Israelite Academy, Solid Foundation International Ministries, okay? Shabar, Judah, Israel, bringing you another lesson concerning the ministries, okay? And we want to say, all praise and glorification to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai. To next lesson we say Shalom.